Hello there, and welcome to the callout guide for Clubhouse. To get it out of the way first, the disclaimer, these are mostly solo queue callouts. These are things that are going to help you say words that are going to mean something to all the people you're going to run into in solo queue. These aren't necessarily the callouts that are going to be the perfect best callouts that you would use if you built a 5-man team and played with them all the time. There are a lot of different places that you could give nicknames, but for this is mainly just for you, so that you know what you're going to hear when you go into solo queue games, and also for what you can say that all the people you're going to play with in solo queue are going to understand. So, I started out on the roof this time because there's a few names for the exterior places on this map. Out here is just parking. There's a spawn out there, and also for all of these spawns, you can mostly just say the directions, out north, out east, whatever. But if you hear parking, that's this area here. Over there is a spawn by that truck right there. It's technically called shipping dock. Nobody uses that. Just call it out west, or the west side spawn. Or sometimes the strip spawn, because the strip club is under that roof right there that I just pinged. Over on this side is construction on the north side. There's a spawn right back in there, and people usually call that construction spawn. You can say out north, but most of the time people will say construction. And then the last one is out east, which is the warehouse. Most people don't use the callout warehouse. Most people just say out east or the garage spawn, because the garage is right there. That's the entrance to the garage. Also, you'll hear the word kennels, because that camera right there, when you're on that camera, on the compass it says kennels. And these are kennels right here. So a lot of people use that callout as well. So any of those, warehouse, kennels, or out east. Alright, we're going to make our way down into the building. We're going to start right over here in garage. So this is garage. There's just a couple little places you can give names for. There's garage stairs, and then garage entrance, lounge wall, and then if you say motorcycle, like garage motorcycle, you're usually talking about this one over here, because people will play behind that one. People don't really play behind this one because it's too small. And then also garage toolbox can be used for this callout right here, or the garage box. And up here is usually just called garage, either garage balcony or sometimes rafters. Most people just call it up top, like garage up top. And if you say that, nobody will be confused. So I would just go with garage up top. That's what most people say. Moving into here is CCTV room on the compass. Most people will call it some iteration of CCTV or server or CC. I think the most common one is actually just server, but that's probably any three of those work. CC, CCTV, or server. All three work. These stairs right here, most people call these the server stairs. I've heard them called a couple other things. I think there's a pro team that calls them Zulu. And then also occasionally you might hear red for red stairs, but most common is just server stairs, and I would use that one in a solo queue setting. Coming over to here, this room is called cache, and that's pretty much the only word anybody has for it, so it just calls cache. This room is called construction. It's called that on the compass, and that's what you should be calling it as well. There is a balcony right out here that used to be more commonly known as cache balcony, because that window used to be something you could actually get through. But now that it's closed off, people don't really have much of a name for this. Sometimes they'll call it construction balcony, but you have to be careful about that because there's a balcony over there on the south side. So if you're trying to get the point across that they're trying to get this wall, say the exterior construction wall is what most people know this wall to be. And if you say outside the construction wall, that's usually what people will think of. Moving over to here is the bedroom, and that's just bedroom. Sometimes this little area over here is called the kitchen, and you can call it that, but be careful, because if you say kitchen, people are going to think about the kitchen that's downstairs on the first floor. And so if you have to say the bedroom in the kitchen area of bedroom. There's a bathroom right here. There's actually now 2 bathrooms on this map since they updated it, and so for the most part when you say bathroom, people will understand via context which one you're talking about. So if you think there might be any confusion, make sure you say it's the top floor bedroom. Over here is the gym, and most people will call it gym. Occasionally you might hear it called weights, but I would just call it gym. And then out here is the jacuzzi, or the hot tub balcony. You might also occasionally hear it just called either the gym or bedroom side balcony, but I wouldn't call it that just because there's another, like I said, there's another balcony over there to the south that you can be confused with. So you call this one hot tub or jacuzzi. It shouldn't cause any problems. Out here, the one I've been talking about, this is the, again, there's not really a great name for this. You can call it bedroom balcony, and most people will know what you're talking about. If in general, I would just stick to using the compass on this one though. South side, outside of bedroom, on the balcony. If you say balcony, just make sure you say also to the south. And actually, you can also call this one the west side balcony if people are confused when you say hot tub. This room in here is logistics, and most people will call it logistics. Some people just call it office. But for the most part, it's logistics, and you should be calling it logistics. There's a desk over here in logistics, you could say behind the desk, and then there's two cubbies. So if you're going to call out one of these cubbies, you have to say left or right. This one I think is called secret stash. Yeah, secret stash. And then this one I don't think has a name. Correct. So if you're going to say one of these cubbies, call it left or right, or call it east or west, depending on who you're giving callouts to, obviously. If someone's going to drop down through this hatch, the logistics hatch, and you say there's a guy on the right cubby or a guy on the left cubby. These stairs right here are just the main stairs. They're called central stairs on the compass. Most people do not call it that. Most people just call these the main stairs because they go all the way from the basement all the way to the top, and they're big and they look like a main stairs. Coming this way is the toilets on the compass. Most people just call this first floor bathroom, or they'll give directions either like the bar bathroom or sometimes even the kitchen bathroom, but that's a terrible call out. Just call this first floor bathroom. This hallway back here is called strip hallway, from that door over to here, and sometimes extending into here, because there's really not a name for this area right here, so it's usually just thrown in with the strip hallway. And this, with the sexy music, is strip club. There aren't really a lot of callouts for the different places in this, other than this little spot over there is called mini bar. But there are other mini bars on this map, so you have to say strip mini bar if you're talking about that one. This side over here is the changing room, and I think this is just, side entrance. Most people just call this by the south side of strip, or the south side strip exit, or strip entrance. If you say changing room, some people will know what you're talking about, but not everybody. So I usually just call it by the directions, either south, or if they're coming in over here on this side, into the lockers area. Some people will call this lockers, other people will just call it the west side strip entrance. This room is called either billiards or pool. Either one of those is totally fine. And then this room is called bar. There's a couple different little spots on it. You can say bar stairs for this little part, or the bar billiard stairs for that. Jukebox is that corner, and then behind the bar is this area. So the whole room is called bar, but if somebody's playing back here, you just say behind the bar. Every once in a while, you'll hear people call this side, this little room over here, you'll hear people just lump this in with bar, and that's sometimes okay if you're just giving very vague callouts, but if someone is actually entry fragging for you and you're droning them in, and you see somebody standing right there, you want to say by the stage, because this room is just the stage. Or at least this is the stage. This red wall didn't used to be there, so people have gotten into the habit of calling the whole room bar, when they shouldn't necessarily be doing that anymore. So this whole area should be called stage, and that area is bar. This right here is main entrance, or it's called lobby on the compass, but not many people call it that, because it's a tiny little room, and most people think of bigger rooms when they're thinking about lobbies. So main entrance is this door right here because it goes out to the parking area. And then this room right here is the lounge. There aren't really any other names for this room that I can think of, just lounge pretty much. This room right here is called stock room. That's what it is on the compass, that's what everybody calls it, so that's what you should be calling it as well. This hatch can either be called the stock hatch, or it can be called the blue hatch, because that room down there is called blue, but we'll get to that later. And also, on top of that lounge is this room and this room, just to be clear. There is no distinction. If you're trying to be specific, you can say west side or east side, or you can say lower, like lower or up on the higher part, but for the most part, you will just give callouts based on which of these other rooms they're close to. Like, they're in lounge going to stock, or in lounge close to main entrance, or in lounge close to the garage door. This room in here is called either supply or storage. I find both of those to be fairly insufficient for the purposes of giving people like good callouts, because if you say supply or storage, they might think you're talking about stock room, which is over there. The best callout I can think of for this room is just top of blue stairs, because these are the blue stairs that go down to blue. Also, another name that you might hear for this room is Adam, because there was a pro player named Adam who made a nutty play on this map once, right before the map got updated, and he hidden the corner that used to be right there, and then he got an ace, and it was pretty sick, so people started calling this room Adam because he hid in this room. So you might hear the word Adam thrown around, and that's the room they're talking about. For the most part, I would just call this either the top of blue or supply, but just be careful because some people might think you're talking about stock room. So this room right here is the blue hallway, and this is blue, like this whole room right here with the big giant, I think that's a heating unit. It's called utility on the compass, but I've almost never heard anybody call it that. I would say 99% of people just call this room blue. This hallway, or actually, we'll go down here first. This room is called oil pit, and most people call it oil pit, and the only other thing you might hear it called is just garage drop, because people drop from garage down into here. So garage drop or oil pit, either one is fine, and you might hear either one. This hallway is usually called like the basement garage hallway, or the sometimes oil pit hallway, or just coming from oil pit. I usually prefer just coming from oil pit because it gets the point across and there's no confusion, because there are a couple hallways that are right here that you might be thinking about if you just say hallway. So blue hallway, oil pit hallway, and blue. This room is really big and it has a few different places that have names. So there's over here where the dummies are, this whole area is usually called dummies. From there to that doorway and across and over to here, dummies. This little spot right over here, pretty much all around this shelf, is called Canine fairly commonly, because there's a pro player named well, I think he's still playing actually. I think he's on E-Gang. He plays in this spot really commonly, and so this little area is commonly called Canine. This area right here, all the way to the end, is called Dirt Tunnel. This area back here is usually called Dirt Tunnel Entrance, and then the rest of it is just called Dirt. Occasionally you might hear it called Cave. That's less common though. You might also hear it called just simply Dirt. And then this right here is just Kitchen Drop, so if somebody's in this area, you just say below Kitchen Hatch. Or if somebody is actively dropping through it, you say dropped kitchen. This area over here can either just be called west end of armory or arsenal. Oh yeah, I guess I didn't say that. This entire room is called arsenal. Sometimes it's called armory. This particular corner back here to the west side is fairly commonly called pulse spot, just because it's really common to play a pulse in here watching upstairs, because up there is the kitchen. And you can see people coming in from the kitchen through that doorway. You can see people coming in through that doorway from the hall. This hallway right here, so all the way from here to there, a lot of people will refer to this as L hallway. The most common thing that you need to get across, though, is just main hall and then going to Moto, because this room over here is called Moto. And so if you're making callouts and somebody's in Moto, you say in Moto, and now you would say in the hallway, and now you would say at 90, and here you would say coming down main hall. There aren't names for this quite like there are for border, where there's usually like short and long isn't used for this. Like, that's not called short, that's not called long. This is usually just called main, and this is usually just called hallway by Moto. So, speaking of which, this room is called Moto, probably 9 times out of 10 called Moto. The other thing you might hear it occasionally called is Memorial, which is what it is on the compass, and then occasionally you might hear it called Motorcycle. That's kind of a terrible call out, though. I would not call it Motorcycle just because there's like 1,000 motorcycles on this map, and it can get confusing really quickly. So, Moto. This room is called Church, and everybody calls it Church, but there are a couple little spots that you need to know about. So these 2 little corners over here have names, and this is the church wall. So this right here is called minibar, kind of like the strip minibar. So if you're talking about this one and you think there might be any confusion, you say church minibar. And then this part right over here behind this box is usually called dark spot. That's a slightly less common call out, though, so be careful because not everyone will know that one. And then I think the only thing that I missed was this room right here is the kitchen, and you can say kitchen by the hatch, and you can. But for the most part, you just want to say where they are based on compass directions. If they're up in this room, you can say by the hatch, or over on the west side, whatever. This room on the compass is called kitchen entrance. Literally nobody calls it that. This room is just called freezer. This room is called freezer, and everybody calls it freezer. So I believe that about does it. I think I hit everything. But if there's anything that I missed, or if there's any callouts that you know that I didn't go over, go ahead and throw them in the comments, and I can throw some in the annotations if they seem to be common, or if there's any that I realize that I missed later. So other than that, thank you for watching. I hope it helped.